On today's special summer episode of the 1 Sports Show, we take a look at the NBA, Stanley Cup Finals, and the first half of the MLB regular season, the College World Series, the start of NFL training camps, and so much more. Don't go away. It's a summer 1 special.
We're going to have an exciting show. We're going to talk about the NFL divisional round and what we expect from it. We talk about Texas's inconsistent start in Big 12 play for men's basketball. We'll finish with some talk about our women's basketball team. So we got a packed show today.
I got to go the other way. Texas A&M, they got a lot of identity issues. Are they an agricultural school? Are they military? Are they blue collar? Are they academics? They're all over the place. So
now, I'm always a sucker for a one-handed catch. I have tiny hands. I need 3 of them just to catch a football. So this one-handed grab in the end zone, that's just super impressive in my eyes. That's going to be my play of the week.
Mayo pour on college game day. Look at this. Just the guy in the North Carolina, South Carolina game. He's just straight eating it, shirt off, rubbing it on his body.
Hey, listen, the Cinderella story ends here, Texans. I'm sorry, man. The chariots turns back into the pumpkin. It struck midnight. Whatever you want to say. I think it ends here.
Hello and welcome into the 1 Summer Special. So glad to have you watching with us today. Before we start, we want to remind you that today's show is brought to you by Cat Metro, Austin's transit system. We connect you to work, school, play, and everywhere in between. Plan your ride to your next Longhorns game at catmetro.org. All right, that being said, we're going to get into our first segment today. As always, it's going to be who's hot and who's not. Santi, who do you have who's hot today?
Yeah, since it's been about 3 months since I last seen you, Tyler. First of all, Tyler, I want to just ask you, how have you been? How's your summer been?
Yeah, it's been a good summer over here in Houston. It's been really rainy. I don't remember a day that it hasn't rained in like a month or so. So, not a lot of time for like your usual summer pool or beach activities. But as a plus, the temperature has been pretty cool, so not too shabby. You?
Yeah, well, that's good to hear. Well, let's get into it. Okay, my who's hot has to be the young flamethrower from Milwaukee, Jacob Mizorowski. 4-run record, 2.81 ERA, and this guy has been an absolute unit on the mound. Only 5 starts, but he's been named an all-star. That's how electric this guy is. This guy has elite stuff. He has 4 pitches that he can throw amazing. He has a 97-mile-per-hour slider. Really, this guy's one of the best young talents in baseball. I'm super excited to see how his career plays out. But I think he has to be, probably since Steven Strasburg, this is the most electric start for an MLB pitcher that I can remember.
Yeah, I definitely got to agree. He's been really good. I mean, questionable in terms of if he should have been added to an all-star team considering his low amount of starts for sure. But you can't deny he's got some great stuff going. I'm going to go with, and this was recently reported about 30 minutes ago, as of when we started recording this, a deal in the works to sell the Tampa Bay Rays for $1.7 billion, which in my mind is just entirely more than I thought they were going to get, considering their stadium is not only bad, but also basically demolished because of that hurricane. But now news coming out that the new owner is going to try to keep him in Tampa Bay, and now all of the relocation worries are going to quash. So I think the Rays fans win it. I think Stuart Sternberg getting $1.7 billion is just a fleece in that. So I think everybody in Tampa Bay has kind of won on the sale, and I think it's just a great restart for a franchise who's been kind of, overperforming but stagnant at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, for the Rays fans, of course, they want to see the ownership spend money. I mean, that's how you win in baseball. They have a great strategy already, a great organization. Really excited for their fans and for the organization.
Yeah, I think, once they can put a little bit money into into some veterans, try to sprinkle something around. They're the kings of cheap ball, but, a little bit of money and who knows what they'll be able to do. All right, going into who's not over the past 2 or 3 months, who do you have?
Yeah, it's been a long 3 months, obviously. And although this team is very hot right now, they've been playing really well. They won their last 10 in a row. I'm gonna have to go with the Boston Red Sox, and specifically their ownership group. They came into the season, they signed Alex Bregman to play third base, but you have your star there, Rafael Devers, a man that you gave 13 years, $300 million, and you tell that guy, the guy that you should be loyal to, the homegrown guy, that he's got to step aside. He cannot play third base. And I get it. He's not a great defenseman. Alex Bregman is elite gold glove guy. But to just completely blindside him that like that, and then you lose your first baseman, you ask him, hey, can you play first base? And he says, yeah, I'll play first base if you guys commit to me playing there for the rest of the year. And they oh, we can't commit to you. But he's done so much for the organization that they couldn't do a lot for him. They end up having for the Giants for a couple of pitchers. In my opinion, not a great return for such an elite DH. I mean, this guy is one of the best bats in baseball over the last 5 years. And, it also is really tough for the fans, right? They wanted to invest in that young core when they won the championship with Mookie Betts, Xander Bogaerts, and Rafael Devers. They let Xander Bogaerts walk. They traded Mookie Betts to the Dodgers. And they gave Rafael Devers this contract to kind of say, hey, to the fans, like, hey, we're willing to pay these players. And, to let it end like that, I think both sides were in the wrong. Obviously, Rafael Devers still should have played in the field, but the Red Sox ownership, man, not looking great right now. But they have won 10 in a row. So maybe I'm just a bad pundit sitting here in my little chair. Maybe they know more than I do.
Yeah, I mean, it's always kind of controversial when you see a team win a World Series, and then after the past couple of years, it's just you ship everybody away. Since that one appearance in the ALCS in 2021, it's kind of been silent over from Fenway Park. But I mean, if they, results speak for themselves, and they're not doing terrible, they're in a wild card spot. They've won their last 10 games, so if they can keep it going and prove that they know what they're doing, then experience suggests that the fans will kind of just forget about it if they can get something out of it. So I think that's a great pick. I'm going to go with a pick that kind of hurts my heart because I was really rooting for them. The Baltimore Orioles continue to be the worst disappointment this season. I was on Crossfire, not too long before the season started, and they asked me, who do you think is going to run the table in the American League? And I very confidently picked the Baltimore Orioles. I was the most wrong. It's not working. They're the worst in the AL East. They're one of the worst teams in the AL by record. Their offense is just Their pitching's not good. And you talk about a core who had such potential in such young age, and it's all just not working. And I don't really know what needs to be fixed about it. Maybe this is just one of those fluke years, or something's in the air in Baltimore, or the Ravens took all their good air. But there's something isn't working, and this entire season, it's just been very hopeless over at Camden Yards.
Yeah. And I mean, when you talk about their young core, they still have Jackson Holiday, Gunnar Henderson, Ryan O'Hearn, Adley Rushman. You lost the bat of Anthony Santander, and you lost Corbin Burns, your ace. But those are two guys who aren't really performing in the places they've signed contracts either. So, I think for the ownership group, they need to bring in pitchers. They're obviously sellers at the trade deadline. So we'll see how their team shapes out. But definitely, just odd considering that 2023 season and even last year where they, had a great season, then got swept by the Royals in the wild card. It just sucks that they can't seem to figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, it was just, this is probably going to go down as one of those lost seasons, and you kind of regroup, see what you can do differently. Maybe there's, changes in the coaching staff ready to be made at the offseason if they can't improve here. But we'll see what happens over in Baltimore. All right, so now going into our what's trending, and boy, long 3 months, lots of topics we could have chose from, but of course we're gonna go with probably the biggest championship series we've seen in the summer, the NBA Finals, where the Oklahoma City Thunder beat the Pacers in 7 games, very competitive series, winning their first NBA championship, second as an overall franchise, but first in Oklahoma City. But first quarter, Pacers star Tyrese Halliburton going down with a torn Achilles, just an absolute nightmare scenario. What do you make of the Pacers' future? And for Oklahoma City, is this the start of a dynasty for them?
Well, I'm going to start off with the second question. I think that a lot of people have really discredited this Oklahoma City team throughout their whole entire run. If it was, injuries, if it was luck, if it was the foul baiting on offense and the flopping. I think that this team, they really remind me of the 2015 Warriors, a team that was also discredited a lot in their first championship with Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving being injured and LeBron having to carry the Cavaliers. And, having such a young core, and they were able to retain Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams. Although, we've seen how the second apron and the salary cap can affect these NBA teams, they're going to have these guys around a long time. And it's not like these guys are 30 years old. I mean, these guys are barely 2 years older than I am. And I think that this could be the start of a very good team in Oklahoma City for a very long time. When it comes to the Pacers, it's kind of tough to see them being contenders. I can see them, they're obviously going to have a down year next year without Tyrese Halliburton. They lost Miles Turner to the Bucks in free agency, and they retain, a bit of their core. Andrew Nemhart, Aaron Neesmith, TJ McConnell, those guys are still there. But it's really, hard to see them contending again with the same core. I think that they're going to have to look through the draft. And, I think tanking is not very popularized in the NBA, but it's kind of their only route right now. And it's going to be a tough next few seasons in Indiana.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with the Indiana thing. I mean, it's hard to see a light for this season with Halliburton being out the entire season. Now you still have Siakam. You obviously you lost Miles Turner, so some of that core is still there. So I don't expect the Pacers to be flat out terrible. I don't expect them to go far in the postseason without Tyrese Halliburton. Siakam did his own thing and was, really, really good in the postseason. But I think without that Halliburton factor, I just don't see it happening this season. I think that short-term future is kind of screwed for them for the time being. I think they can get there. I think they need to try to retain at least some of that core, really make sure Halliburton is rehabilitated correctly. But as for now, it's just, not, I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. As for Oklahoma City, I have to agree, this is a really, really good team. And I don't think people should discredit Oklahoma City for this ring. There's a couple reasons. I think the entire postseason they showed that they had what it takes. And I mean, who's to say they wouldn't have won if Halliburton had stayed in the game? I mean, he had 9 points in that first quarter, but that doesn't dictate what would have happened in the other 42 minutes of the game he would have played in. They retain Holmgren, they retain Alexander, they retain Williams. They have probably the best front office in sports. I mean, the things that they've been able to do that their GMs they've been able to do, all the draft picks, all of the signings. I mean, it is just lights out in that organization. I think this is a very good team, and they've locked down their core. I think if they just keep bringing in supporting cast players and kind of even they can do it in like a rotating, carousel. If they can keep that core healthy, I don't think there's a better team in the league. And I think that it is their finals to lose for the time being now. I think they've got what they need to really keep it going. All right, next up, of course, it's the deadest week in sports, which means it's the MLB All-Star Game coming up. We're halfway through the MLB season. Going in, who has been the biggest surprise player and surprise team, good or bad, for you this first half of the season?
Yeah, you know what, Tyler? I'm gonna have to go with team, as you previously mentioned. I'm gonna have to go with the Baltimore Orioles. I mean, everybody thought that this team, although they lost Santander, they lost Corbin Burns, people didn't think this team was going to be bottom of the barrel, gutting for worst team in the MLB. And they still have Jackson Holiday, they still have Gunnar Henderson, all these bats. And to see them struggling the way they is, it's surprising to say the least. And I hope that they can get better. But let's flip to the good side. Let's talk about Pete Crow Armstrong. This guy has been the biggest surprise for me. I mean, I knew he was a solid player, an electric player, great defender, but 25 home runs, to see him have that pop and that power. I mean, if you told me he had 25 home runs on the season, I would have said he was probably an all-star. But 25 home runs before the all-star break, this guy's playing out of his mind, and he's a contender for MVP. It's a little tough with Shohei Ohtani in the NL, but Pete Crow Armstrong has been a big surprise for me this season.
Yeah, I gotta agree. PCA has been electrifying to watch. He's got a gold glove caliber glove in the outfield. He's got power, he's got speed. I mean, he's kind of your perfect prototypical baseball player right now. Um, I'm gonna go with a player in terms of my biggest surprise who I think is just having such an outlier year. It is kind of insane. Cal Raleigh for the Mariners is absolutely insane this year. He already has more home runs this year than he's ever had in the year before. 38 home runs before the All-Star break, which I think ties the record set.
He has
Um,
the record for the American League before the All-Star
American
break.
League record. So, I mean, just the power coming off of his bat, he has it is insane to see him jump so because he's not a new player. He's not a rookie. He's been in the league for a while, veteran catcher, and he has made such a leap to this year. It is the biggest surprise. And it's honestly kind of sad that the Mariners can't do more with it because they're still kind of middle of the barrel average. I mean, they're second in the AL West, but that's also not a hard thing to get considering everyone else in the AL West is kind of garbage. Biggest surprise team, and this is a surprise to me. I'm gonna go with the Houston Astros. Now, we never really think they're gonna be bad, just considering, they still have some really good players. But for them to be in contention for the number one team in the league of overall record, to have the pitching year that they're having, to have one of the top end offenses in the league, and all do it with a lineup that currently is half AAA players because half of their rotation is injured. Jordan's out. Jeremy Pena just got injured. Everyone is injured and they're still overperforming out of their minds. It is a fun team to watch, and shades of I say shades of 2017, but we'll see later on this season.
We all know the
Definitely
Astros are inevitable.
they are inevitable, and it's kind of just crazy to see what they've been able to do with less because of those injuries and still be a top five team in the American leagues. So yeah, definitely surprised. Now we're gonna go with, we're about a month away from the really, really meaty part of football season starting. Preseason is gonna start. So that off season coming to a head. Training camps set to begin in just a couple weeks. After this off season, what do you think is going to be the most pivotal move to their team? And who is your way too early pick to win the Super Bowl next February?
Yeah, it's tough to say. I mean, the NFL, it's tough from year to year. I think for in terms of sports, this is the most sport where you see the most amount of guys kind of falling off every single year in terms of talent level. I mean, the sport's hard on the body, and you see guys kind of really regress really rapidly. But, I really like a surprise signing or trade that just happened was Minka Fitzpatrick to the Miami Dolphins. I thought that that was a great trade for them. I know he's had a few down years in Pittsburgh, but when this guy was at the top of his game, I think he was one of the best safeties. And to trade a guy like Jalen Ramsey, who was a great player at his peak, but is a little bit older, I think they got a very nice return. And I do like the Miami Dolphins to be maybe a contender. In terms of my way too early pick to win the Super Bowl, it's tough every year not to say the Chiefs, but I also like the Eagles a lot. I mean, I think they still have a lot of that same core on offense. Saquon Barkley, if he can keep up what he did last year, he was a beast. And it's so much harder to guard that passing game with AJ Brown and Devontae Smith when you got to deal with that guy on the ground too. So I might have to say the Philadelphia Eagles to run it back.
Yeah, I think that's definitely it's a popular pick because it's a good pick. They have every single piece of their team working for them, and I think I was kind of a fan of the Fitzpatrick trade, not because of what the trade was, but because it was the first time I've ever seen just a player swap. No cash, no picks, just I take him, you get him done. Now, so I'm kind of looking at a team who their quarterback was playing nasty last year. I mean, just out of his mind as a rookie, but got sacked a lot, and that's Jaden Daniels. Their O line just wasn't really able to keep him going. Very evident in that NFC Championship game. Laramie Tunsil going to the Commanders might just help fix that issue. Now, as a Texan, very talented, played really well, trouble with penalties, kind of didn't care, it looked like at some points. I think that that can also be attributed to the Texans itself, maybe not as much Tunsil as I used to think. So I think that if they can, keep Tunsil happy, it's Jaden Daniels is going to unlock a whole new level of play that we haven't seen since. I mean, he can run, he can pass. I think we can see like shades of Vic if he can keep it protected. As for the Super Bowl winner, I think that there's a team who kind of underperformed last year. I think part of that was because they had a major defensive injury. I think the Detroit Lions are going to take this Super Bowl. I think they have every piece working for them. Their running back core is one of the best in the league. They have great wide receivers in wide receiver in St. Brown. Their supporting cast is great. Jared Goff ever since coming to Detroit, it's been a lifeline for him. I think Aiden Hutchinson coming back is going to be really, really integral to that defense. And if they can keep things going in the playoffs and keep teams from scoring like they did 2 years ago when they almost made the Super Bowl against the 49ers, I think that the Lions can finally put it together in this third year of relevance and take a title. Um, all right, with that, we are going to take a short break. We'll be right back with our Texas Athletics block. Don't go away.
Welcome back to the 1 Sports Show. We are back with our Texas Athletics block, and let's get right into it. Texas baseball was awarded the number 2 overall national seed in this year's NCAA tournament, but were unceremoniously booted out by UTSA, getting swept at home, failing to make it even to the Super Regionals. For a team with national expectations, who is to blame for this collapse, and what needs to happen next year for the team to contend?
Yeah, I think this isn't a situation where you blame a person. Every single person is to blame. That last part of the season, I think starting with the SEC tournament, was just hot garbage. It was a one and done in the SEC tournament. I think it got in their heads. They got tired. They had extra rest, which either does one of two things: gets you ready if you're already tired, or makes you tired if you're ready. And I think it just made them tired. Their starting pitching was ineffective. Their offense couldn't get anything going. And I think it was just too little, too late. I think for next year, I mean, definitely, the injury bug kind of got them with losing their ace in the beginning of the season, but got to keep momentum going. Got to find a way to bridge that gap between the conference tournament and the NCAA tournament, or else you're just not going to be able to win a title that way.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree. This team definitely looks like they got burnt out early on into the season, maybe a little later into the season. And I think, just overall, there was there just didn't seem to be a sense of urgency from this team. And I know that they were a great team. They had a series sweep over the eventual champions, LSU. And it just, I think that falls a little bit on the attitude of the team. And you saw that kind of defeat from a lot of guys. And it's kind of, it's tough and it's college sports. It's unpredictable. So hats off to UTSA. But I think for Texas baseball, they need to look into getting better starting pitching. That was really what got them behind the eight ball in those two games against UTSA. And having those guys who can go really deep in innings, especially in the college game where you have coaches who will pitch their guys 131 innings, that's really important. And I think that having those aces that you can kind of ride and get you to Omaha, and then you can see where it plays out from there. That's what they need on their team. But although Texas baseball could not make it out of the Super Regionals, on the other side of Mall Street resides the newly crowned 2025 national champion Texas softball team. The Longhorns beat rivals Oklahoma and Texas Tech en route to the championship, thanks in large part to Mia Scott's incredible performance in this tournament while playing with a torn ACL. Tyler, what did you make of this incredible run for the team's first ever national championship?
Yeah, I mean, what a team to watch, what a series to watch. It's just incredible. I think this Texas softball team was the embodiment of true grit, just absolutely putting the pedal to the metal and really knowing that if you want it enough and you know you can do it, you just do it. You do whatever you can to possibly do it. I mean, Mia Scott made a backhanded play in game three, the deciding game of the national title series, on a torn ACL and didn't even really look like it hurt. I stubbed my toe, I'm bending over in pain. This softball player, Mia Scott, just incredible grit. Tegan Kavan pitching out of her mind the whole series. Just really, really good stuff. Great attitude. Really proving that, if you want it enough and you persevere and you have that grit, you can make things happen. Really, really inspiring stuff from this team this year.
Yeah, I agree. I'm super proud of this team, and we saw them throughout this whole decade of the 2020s really struggle to beat Oklahoma, who was a dynasty in the making over there. And for them to finally get over that hump, it's really, inspiring. And then for them to beat a rival like Texas Tech in the championship, that was sweet too. So, Tegan Kavan, like I just talked about with starting pitching, especially in softball where you can pitch the girls, multiple days in a row, that takes you really far. And she was electric throughout the whole postseason and really proud of this team and looking forward to a lot more wins and excited that we have a national champion again on the 40 acres. But all right, let's move to the biggest sport on the 40 acres, which is Texas football, who will enter their 2025 campaign with their highest expectations in recent memory, thanks in large part to starting quarterback Arch Manning taking the reins from Quinn Ewers. Tyler, what are your expectations for this team?
Yeah, so definitely, you can't predict for sure. Always some, uncertainties when you go into a year, but I think that this is going to be a really, really good year. I think there's a couple things. You pair Arch Manning, who we saw has beautiful deep ball. I mean, this just his effortless throwing of the football. You've got Wingo, you've got Moore, you've got Lockett, Baxter's back, Wisner's still there, and I think that defense is a top two in the nation. I think they have a chance to prove that they're not top two. I think that as long as they can put the pieces together and stave off the injury bug, I definitely think at least we're going to see a national championship appearance. I think they have the chance to win it, but I definitely think we see an appearance in the championship. I think we finally get past that round of four. Past 2 years we haven't gotten there. We've lost in that round of four, whether it be the first round of the old playoff or that, semifinal round of that new playoff kind of got stalled there. I think that this is the year to prove that they can do it and that they are, actually back.
Yeah, I have a bit more skepticism when it comes to this team. I always have as a lifelong fan. And for me, the biggest question mark is going to be the secondary. You lose Jade Barron, the Thorpe Award winner, best cornerback in the nation. And, you still have some guys like Michael Taft and Malik Muhammad there. But, for this team to come together, that's going to be really tough. And they don't have a very easy schedule, too, when you look at playing at Georgia, playing at Florida, at Ohio State to start the year against the best wide receiver in college football in Jeremiah Smith. I'm, a little bit worried for how this team's defense will shape up, especially when you have a lot of guys, stepping into new positions. But I do feel better about them relying on that core of Anthony Hill, Colin Simmons, even guys like Ethan Burke. I think the D line's going to be huge for this team. And when you look at the offense, I mean, the offense is loaded like the Sark offense always is. And we've seen Archman, and let's not even talk about how he's out here in St. Louis giving back to the kids. What a great guy. But I'm looking forward to the season. I do expect about one loss throughout the regular season, whether it comes at Florida, at Georgia, or they drop a game here and there. I would expect a loss. It's a tough schedule. But I think at this point for Sark, the championship is the expectation. We've gotten to that round of four, like you mentioned, the last 2 years. And I think it's really time for Sark to prove that he's an elite coach and he's made this an elite program.
Yeah,
But all right, that
definitely.
is it for our Texas athletics block. You don't want to miss it. Next, we have the return of 10 and 10. 10 topics in 10 minutes should be electric.
Welcome back to the One of Sports Show. We're going straight into the return of 10 in 10, 10 topics in 10 minutes. We're going to start with summer 2025. Now, I don't really know about what's going on with you. It's been really rainy over here in Houston, so definitely not a typical summer. Usually we see like a drought, lots of 100-degree days. You feel like you're outside and you're baking inside of an air fryer. It's not really that. It's very humid, very rainy, very overcast. I mean, just today, randomly for like 30 seconds, it poured and then it was sunny. And also just, not a lot, I've been really busy. I got a job. So, summers get less fun the more you stray away from childhood, is what I think.
Yeah, I mean, I can kind of agree with that, but I still love the summer. I'm a Texas kid all through and through. I love warm weather. I love the long days, having the sun out till 9 p.m. I've been golfing a lot, been hooping in the gym, trying to lay low, stack my money up. We might be going into a recession, so had to open up a Roth IRA, had to start investing a little bit, S&P 500, you know how it is. But yeah, I mean, been a pretty good summer. I do agree though, a little too much rain for my liking, and no 100-degree days yet in Austin, so been kind of cool.
Yeah, I really appreciate the temperatures. All right, going in, it's been somewhat of a tight race. Who do you have leading and winning the AL MVP?
Yeah, I mean, tight race to say the least. I think by the end of the season, this might be one of the most exciting races we've seen in baseball since Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa going for the home run record way back in the day. I mean, Cal Raleigh is the MVP. This guy is a catcher playing every single day. To put on that gear, it's something different from playing in the outfield, man. You get dirty, this is a lot. And if he's not, in the lineup as a catcher, he's DHing every day, switch hitter. He has 38 home runs, shattered the record for a catcher before the All-Star break. Cal Raleigh's really impressed me. If the season ended today, he's the MVP.
Yeah, 100%. It takes a lot to be a catcher, physically, mentally. You have to call the games. You're the pitcher's lifeline, and you're hitting 38 home runs. I don't think there's as much of a contest as everyone else seems to think, to be really honest with you. Um, but yeah, I think it's definitely Raleigh. Going in the year of Cooper Flag, all the stuff about the NBA draft. What are your thoughts on the NBA draft this year?
Yeah, I was to be honest, I think the NBA draft's kind of tough. You see a lot of guys that get drafted for development, but in the NBA, they have so many deep lineups that they can't develop these guys in the game. And the G League is nothing like the minor leagues in the MLB. Those guys aren't going to improve over there. But I will say my favorite pick had to be Yang Hassan, this guy from the Portland Trail Blazers, getting drafted in the crowd with his family. That was super awesome. I love to see that. But Tyler, what are your thoughts on the draft?
Yeah, I love that pick. I'm going to take this last seconds and just say that the Dallas Mavericks should never have gotten that pick. There is absolutely no statistical way that somehow after that trade for Doncic, they got the number one pick and got flagged, and everyone seemed to forgive him after that. I absolutely call foul play there. I don't really understand how it happened, and I think it should be looked into. That's my thoughts. I think Cooper Flag should have been like a Jazz or something. Looking into what has been a pretty tight race so far, who is your leaders and winner for the AL Cy Young?
Yeah, I mean, when we first made this question, talking about a hypothetical show, it looked to be a lot deeper. It looked to be Hunter Brown, Fromber Valdez was in the mix there. But now I think it's really just between two guys. It's between Tarek Skubal and Garrett Crochet. Garrett Crochet just yesterday pitched a complete game shutout against the Tampa Bay Rays. But Skubal had a bad start recently, but I still think it's got to be him. 10-3 record, 2.23 ERA, 153 strikeouts. This guy's been pretty elite, and I don't think he's going to slow down.
Yeah, I definitely think that, Scubal's the front runner right now. I don't think we can really discount Hunter Brown out yet. I think that ERA is still in the top. His stuff is nasty. Little baby Verlander, Crochet is a great pick, but I think definitely Scubal. He's starting in the AL All-Star for the AL in the All-Star game. He's the pick right now, but I think it's a tight one. It's not a given yet. Going in, we're off season starting to end. Thoughts about the upcoming college football year?
Yeah, I mean, I'm super excited. Every single day I wake up, I think about college football. I mean, it's really I love it. But I think really random. We just have college football down for this graphic. So what I want to talk about is Auburn fans being mad at Hugh Freeze for golfing. I think that's just really funny to me that Auburn, they have such a toxic program with these fans who really, they care about everything. Just let the man play golf. It's not getting in the way of his coaching career. But what about you, Tyler?
Yeah, I have a couple things. I think we need to stop changing the playoff. Find something and do it. If we keep changing the playoff every year, there's no consistency, there's no standard. We can't compare people. Stop changing the playoff. Fine. You need to change it one more time for sure. But after that, stop it. No more expansion. Just stop expanding it. I would like to be able to compare a team who wins a title from one title to another and not be like, oh, but there was 16 and not 12, that sort of thing. Going in, one of the biggest stories from mixed martial arts, Ilia Topuria in the KO against Charles Oliveira. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the guy is absolutely an electric factory. When you hear that walkout song and you see him come out there, and this guy celebrated his victory the night before the fight. That stuff's badass and really cool. Get kind of getting me into UFC, getting me a little bit intrigued.
Yeah, I mean, if it's on Saturday, I'll watch UFC. But I know I was expecting more of a fight. It was insane the way he just. It was a very quick knockout against. I've always thought Oliveira was kind of almost an ageless wonder. He's performing so well into his age, and just he did made it. Ilya made him look silly, and it was really fun to watch. And I think he's definitely on the short list of best fighters in the UFC right now, based on my somewhat limited understanding. Going into golf now, Keegan Bradley just won the Travelers Championship, captain for the Ryder Cup. Thoughts on his great play so far?
Yeah, this guy won the Travelers Championship. A guy from New England, he gets to win it in front of the fans. The tournament he went to growing up. I think that he should play in the Ryder Cup. You look at this U.S. lineup; it's not very deep. You have Colin Morikawa, Scotty Scheffler, Bryson DeChambeau, and then there's really a big gap after that. And although this guy is the captain of the team, and I know it meant a lot to him to be selected the captain, the U.S. needs the best golfers out there. This is a year where Europe is stacked, and I think Europe is going to be stacked for the foreseeable future. And to compete, we need the best we can get out there. Keegan, we love you. We want you to be the captain, but we would even love it more if you represented us in the Ryder Cup and we could kind of get the U.S. back in the win column. So I think he should play.
I agree. You have a captain as someone who kind of can perform well, and he's performing really well right now. You got to have him on, got to have him on the course. All right, going back into baseball, Shohei Ohtani starting to pitch again, starting to be that two-way player we've come to know and love. Thoughts on his return to pitching?
Yeah, for me, the biggest thing that I have to say is that we've always talked about, or I think we've always talked about, can he do both? Like that's always been the thing. And a lot of people talked about after this last season, they said Otani should never even pitch again because he was such a good hitter, hit, 60 and 60. We'll probably never see that again. And, this guy's come back, he's pitching these short starts and his hitting has not fallen off at all. And I think it's really a miracle to see what he's doing, even with, these Tommy John surgeries. Super excited for him.
Yeah, I think the Dodgers were handling it really well. Short starts, not trying to get him injured, trying to get him back in the mix without having to have him rehab because he's hitting really well. Tough situation. I think they're handling it well. He's performing well in these short 2 inning starts, and I think they keep doing that, and he'll be that two-way player again. I absolutely think he can. I don't think he should stop pitching because why would you if you can? All right, back into the NBA. Kevin Durant, obviously the biggest story of the offseason, but just the offseason free agency in general. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it was very exciting. I think, you always see the NBA, there's always these massive trades, and it's really hard to kind of keep up. But I think DeAndre Ayton, although it's been a little bit clowned because he's kind of a meme and the Lakers are kind of a joke for not having a big man, I think him going to the Lakers does really make them a lot better contenders. They still have Luka and LeBron. That was kind of a tough chemistry towards the end of the season, but they needed the size, they needed the rebounding the whole time. And super excited for Kevin Durant in Houston. That should be awesome to watch.
Yeah, I think I've got to talk about Kevin Durant in Houston. I think that it was a great trade for the Rockets. They only gave up, they gave up second round picks, which, how often do second round picks turn into good things? Jalen Green and Dylan Brooks, people who expendable, especially after Green's lackluster performance in the playoffs. You still got that young core and Şengün and Whitmore and everybody else. I think it's a great trade. All right, going back in, obviously every 4th of July we all watch the hot dog contest. The greatest of all time, Joey Chestnut returning. Thoughts on Joey Chestnut as one of the greatest athletes ever?
Yeah, I mean, the man is the GOAT. What more is there to say? But I know I thought it was a shame that they banned him last year because he was endorsing some other type of hot dog brand that wasn't Nathan's. And this guy needs to be out there every year. But I think the absolute domination. I mean, 20 years of excellence from Joey Chestnut, unchallenged, besides a few losses to another GOAT and Matt Stoney. I think that he's up there, and don't discount Bag Glenn's chugs. And the GOAT of chugging liquids. I know, but Joey Chestnut, he's the GOAT.
Badlands Chugs, great online accounts, just absolutely fun to watch. I think last year's shouldn't even count, honestly, because if Chestnut was there, he would have eaten way more than 51. He's just the best to do it, and he's the most fun part of 4th of July for me. No one will ever compete with his domination. In 20 years, he's had as much titles as the Celtics have in their history. All right,
Well,
with that, that's going to be our 10 minutes, 10 topics in 10 minutes. We'll be right back with Pick'ems. Don't go away.
all right, and we are back here with our final segment of the day, our Pick'em segment, one of our favorite segments on the show. Well, let's start off with the home run derby winner. I'm trying to get through this quickly, Tyler, because this is in about 9 minutes kicking off. But Tyler, who do you have winning the home run derby?
I think it's Cal Raleigh. He has the most home runs. The power is insane. I think it's just an easy pick for me.
I think Kyle Raleigh, switch hitter. It'll be cool to see him. His dad's throwing him the pitches, but I'm gonna go with James Wood. This guy's been electric. I really like his swing, 6'7". 6'7". I really like James Wood to win the home run derby. All right, Tyler, who do you think is gonna be the All-Star game?
I think you got to look for someone with power, speed, and hitability, and I think that's going to be Kyle Tucker this year.
Yeah, I think that the All-Star game's all about fun, all about showing off. And you want to talk about a guy whose game is fun to watch, then you want to talk about Ellie De La Cruz for the Cincinnati Reds. This guy's electric hitter, makes great plays in the field. I got Ellie De La Cruz as the All-Star game MVP. All right, for just the game, Tyler, who do you think is going to win the game, the National League or the American?
I think, it's been kind of rare lately, but I think the National League's going to take it this year. Kyle Tucker, and I think if Kyle Tucker will be the MVP, then the NL's got to win it. I think the pitching is going to be good, and their offense is going to get it done.
Yeah, I have to agree. The National League wins in the landslide, in my opinion. And Ronald Acuna Jr. batting second. I think this guy is good a homer for the hometown fans. He pulled out of the home run derby, which is disappointing to see. But in Atlanta, I also think too many Tigers made the lineup in the AL. Not a huge fan of Javi Baez making the All-Star. Great story. Good for him that he's back. I'm not sure if he should have been an All-Star. I really like the hitters in the NL and the pitching, so got to go with the NL right there. All right, let's move into an MLB event not taking place this week. Let's go with the Speedway Classic This game is going to be played in Bristol, Tennessee. It'll be the first MLB game ever played in the state of Tennessee. We have the Braves taking on the Reds. Tyler, who do you have winning this game?
I love an MLB game being played at a NASCAR thing. It's the most American thing I've ever heard. I think the Reds are going to take it. I think they've just been the better team this year, and no matter where you play, I think the better team wins. So I think in this like one-off special game, I think it's going to be the Reds.
Yeah, I have to disagree. I'm going to take the Braves. They've looked a little bit better, although I mean, just a really tough season for this team. They're going to be sellers at the trade deadline, but looking at who they currently have, the Braves, team of the South, man, playing in a NASCAR stadium, and it's a home game for them. Tough to think about pitching matchups, but I assume that Chris Sale will be maybe back, and maybe he pitches in this game. I'm going to take the Braves. All right, moving to another seasonal game. We have the NFL Hall of Fame game between the Chargers and the Lions. Preseason game here. Tyler, who do you have winning?
You can't predict the preseason game. You don't know who's going to play. There's so many like B, C, D, E, Z string players. I'm just going to pick the Lions and hope I'm right.
All right, I'm at well then I'll disagree with you and hope I'm right. I'm pick the Chargers. I think you see it, some of these guys that like the better teams, they have a lot of more established guys. The Chargers, they might have some more guys scrapping, trying to make that 53-man roster. I'm going to pick them. All right, WNBA All-Star game. Kind of far away and kind of tough. They actually just announced the lineups. Caitlin Clark has a team, but who do you think is going to be the All-Star game MVP, Tyler?
I really like Sabrina Ionescu. I think it's going to be a great game. I think three-pointers always a fun part of the All-Star game because I think you can make more three-pointers in an All-Star game because the defense is always kind of during an All-Star game. So I think Ionescu is going to take it. I think she's going to be the highest scorer and take home that MVP for Team Clark.
Yeah, all right. I'm gonna go with Arik Olungawapale. Hopefully, I said that correctly for the Dallas Wings. She's electric. She won the All-Star Game MVP last year, I think, in the USA versus WNBA, and she was, trying really hard. That's something that you have to do to be winning these All-Star Games MVP. So I'm gonna go with her to win it back to back. All right, moving on to another current sport that we have. We have NBA Summer League. Tyler, who do you think is going to win the championship?
Yeah, again, hard to choose. A lot of, sub roster players, but I think it's going to be the Jazz. I think you look for a team who was really bad in the NBA, so the people in the Summer League know that they have a shot of making it because they're going to try to completely wreck shop. I think Ace Bailey is going to impress. I think that they're in a good position to win this. They will suck in the NBA this season, though.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with the Houston Rockets. If I'm not mistaken, I think they won it last year, and I really like them. They have these young core, and they have a lot of guys still playing in it, like Reed Shepard. So I'm gonna go with the Rockets. All right, moving on to something very far ahead in the future. We're gonna talk about U.S. men's soccer team. They just lost in the Gold Cup final to Mexico. How far, Tyler, do you think that this team will go in the World Cup, looking at the current situation for them?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're talking about this because of the Gold Cup, and they were in the final, and it looked good for a second. Soccer is the fifth most watched sport here. We don't really care about it as much. I don't think the U.S. will ever be at a caliber to win it, in my opinion. I think it'll be the same as last time. Round of 16, respectable performance, but then they're just gonna get beat by the countries who worship soccer the way we do, like football. I mean,
Mhm.
it's not gonna be a competition.
Yeah, I kind of agreed on that standpoint. Like something how we will never see football be played in any other country the way it's played here in America. And I think it's tough for this team to have so many guys who don't seem to be invested in the team. Mainly Christian Pulisic, he's not really anywhere to be found while this team's playing in the Gold Cup. And tough to have that attitude. They got a new manager, which I like that, but I have to agree with you. Just kind of a mediocre program, and hopefully they prove us wrong playing on their home turf in America. That would be pretty cool. But all right, let's go to golf. As we were talking earlier, we have the Open this year in Europe. Tyler, who do you think is going to win?
I think McElroy is on the up and up again. I think he had a second place finish, 13 under just yesterday. I think we're going back into England, and it's not, Ireland, but it's England, and it's close enough. Don't kill me, Europe gods, because that's kind of a sin I just did. But I think McElroy's on the up and up, and I think this is one of those majors that he's won two of these. I think this is the one that he can win again.
Yeah, and you look at the Open. And it's just really tough. You're having this links golf where you can run the ball on the course. And I like guys like, Bobby McIntyre and all these guys from Europe. They really excel. And I wrote down Victor Hovland, but I think I'm going to go with the last second pick here. I'm going to take Ludwig over. I think that this is his time to finally win a major. We've seen really a lot of inconsistency, really not a great season from him. Didn't even make the cut at the US Open, had a rough Masters. And, for him, it's just been consistency in the short game. His approach game is great. And I really think that he's due to win a major. So Ludwig over has to be my pick. All right, Tyler. Lastly, I'm going to ask you a more personal question. This isn't even really a pick. There's no win or L here. What's the best part of summer for you?
Yeah, I mean, on a normal time, it's, you're enjoying the warm weather, you're going to the pool, you're going to the beach, you're grilling hot dogs, and you're spending time together as a family. It has been really rainy. I have only done that once. Went to the beach, grilled some hot dogs on our little campfire grill. But yeah, I think it's just spending time with the family. You're not in school. You've got a little bit more of a break, grilling those hot dogs. I love hot dogs in the summer. That sort of thing. It's just something you can only do when it's hot outside.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with the long days. I love the long days, being able to golf really late on the course or just spend time in a park with your friends. I mean, having the sun go down at 9 p.m., if that could be the norm, I'd be perfectly fine with that. So I love the long, hot summer days. But all right, that is gonna do it for our 1 Sports special, summer special. We hope you enjoyed it. Tune back in here to TSTV Sports in the fall for the return of 1 Sports every Friday at 11:30. Our sister shows College Press Box every Tuesday at 6 p.m. and College Crossfire with new host TJ Krylowitz. Congratulations to TJ, former 1 executive producer, every single Wednesday live at 9 p.m. We thank you for watching and have a great rest of your summer.